Okay, so now we're going to make a second 1221 install, and we're going to mod this one and add some practice tools to it. This is going to be picking up right where the last video left off, so if you didn't see that, be sure to do that so that you can follow along. So before we mod anything, we want to actually make a second install just so that we leave our install for runs untouched. So I'm going to go into the down patches folder, and you'll notice I made this like subfolder last time, and that's just so I can copy and paste it here. And again, this may take a while because this is like the entire game being copied over. But this is going to be all of the same contents, so this will be just a normal 1221 install, and then we'll just add the mods to it after the fact. So now that it's done, I'll go ahead and rename it. And just to recap, there should be 3 things in here: this Hollow Knight data folder, the Hollow Knight exe, and this text file, which keeps all of this stuff separate from your Steam install. So in an attempt to keep this video as updated as a video can be, rather than just giving you a bunch of links that will inevitably go out of date as the mods update, I'm going to try to show you how to actually find the most up-to-date versions of things using the Discord. So the Discord is going to be linked in the description. Feel free to join. And in the Discord, there's this channel called Resources. This is where people post, save states and helpful information, tools, and of course mods. So this is where we're going to be getting all of our downloads. And so one very handy thing to know is that in Discord, if you hit Control F, it'll start a search in the channel you're in. So now if I look for something, I can just look for any resource that somebody has posted. So we're just going to be using this repeatedly to find all of the downloads we need. So the first thing is the modding API, and this is how all of the future mods that we download are going to interface with the game. So this one is very important to get. So we're just going to look up modding API, and then very important, add 1221 after to make sure you get the right one. For pretty much everything that we're going to be looking for, there's current patch alternatives, so make sure you include the 1221. And this one is an archived post from May, so you would just click this and it'll do a direct download. Okay, next one is debug mod. This is probably the single most important one to get. Again, 1221 at the end. And the whole point, like I said, of doing this instead of just giving you download links is that it might be different than the one that I'm currently downloading. So don't look for this exact message, just look for the most recent one that's clearly a download. This is a releases page. It doesn't always bring you here. A lot of the time it'll bring you to the main page for something, where it'll tell you about the mod and all that. So to actually get to a download from here, you're going to look on the right for releases. Go ahead and click it. Find the one at the top of the list, and for debug, we're looking for debugmod.dll. So go ahead and click that to download it. All right, next one is timer mod, and this actually brings up a couple good points. The first one is if I look it up the way I was looking up the other ones, nothing will actually show up. If that does happen, try putting the game version first. You can see the order of the tags here just kind of confused Discord, so it was able to find it this way. And the second thing is to keep an eye on the actual post if it tells you how to download it in a specific way. You can see if I just click this link, it's actually just a download for one of the files, and timer mod has a bunch that we need. So for example here, hktimer.dll is only for when you already have hktimer installed, otherwise you'll have to download the manage.zip. So just make sure you're downloading the right thing. So in this case, I'm going to pick manage.zip because I'm downloading from scratch. And the last one here is bench warp. This is the most optional in my opinion, but I still recommend getting it. And this is just another archive post. Okay, so I've got all my files downloaded now. Now we're going to actually install them. I'm going to go to my down patches folder. And we're going to make sure we go into the designated modded install. Go into Hollow Knight data and into managed. And this is where everything is going to be happening, is in this folder. So the very first thing we want to do is take our assembly C# and drop it in here. This is the modding API download. It's going to ask if we want to replace. Hit yes. And now we're going to create a folder called mods. You could also just launch the game and this folder will get made automatically, but we're going to make it here. And then this is where most of everything else is going to go. So I'll go ahead and drop debug mod in there. Bench warp should also go in there, so I'll just drop those in. And then the only exception is timer mod. So you can see there's a mods folder and then there's these two other things. So we're just going to go back up to managed and then drop these in. You can see there's those two new ones, and then in mods there's also HK timer. And so that should be everything. So now we're going to test and make sure that we did all the installing correctly. All right, so before we make sure everything's actually working, I'm going to add the modded install in the same way that I added the vanilla one before. So in down patches, just make sure you go to the modded install here and pick this exe, add selected program. And again, we're going to want to give this one a name to keep it distinct. Okay. So now we're going to make sure that our down patches are actually working and that the modded install is working as well. So the very first thing I did was set my Hollow Knight main install back to normal patch. So go from 122 Ungrim Troop to none. And this way, when we launch either of these, if either of them bring us to current patch, then that means they're still launching our normal Steam install, and so we mess something up with the Steam app ID text file, and we'll have to go back and fix that. So first thing I'm going to do is launch the vanilla one. And we can see this one is in 1221, as we saw in the last video. So this is working correctly. There's nothing else here. There's no modding API banner up here. It's just 1221, so this has been set up correctly. So that's good. And then the next one is the modded one. Oops. You might get that message if you try to launch two different installs back to back. But anyway, this time it should still be in 1221, but modding API should have a banner at the top. There we go. So it tells us our modding API version, and then usually the version number of the other mods you have installed. So there's bench warp, debug, and HK timer. Just a note, by the way, if you're asking around for help in the Discord and they ask you what version of the mod you have, this is the place to check for that. So this is also in 1221, and we have the banner, so that means our mods are working. So we've set up both of our patches correctly. We're all set. So if you got the same results that I did, you're all set. Your vanilla install for running and your modded install for practice are all ready to go. If you did run into trouble though, now that you're in the Discord, you can ask either in tech support or help, and we can guide you through any of the hiccups that you might be having. So yeah, good luck.